Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Point Podcast. Hope you guys are all enjoying this great Red Tuesday here in New Brunswick as we all scale back to the red phase and as we all rejoice. But we want to have some fun tonight. We want to keep it light, so I do that best with my good buddy Shamus Fillmore, my co-host here. Shamus, how are things in St. John?
Good. Life hasn't changed much for me. I know, unlike you, I don't spend as much time in the gym. So going back to Reds, not taking a major step back, but obviously it's something that has to be done for the province. So everyone out there, hope you stay safe and Miramichi, keep doing your thing with no cases.
Yeah, good on them. I mean, they're still open, considering making the travel to their gyms early mornings.
You're the meaning of dedication if you do that. I will give you that one. There's no
Should do
doubt.
that one day just for the fun. I don't know if they'll let me in though with my address.
Yeah, well, I mean, just get in there, try to sneak in, maybe go behind somebody, pretend like
Right.
you're pretend like you're a member.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We'll see. See how long this red face lasts, because that might be actually be a solution here down the stretch. But
I don't know.
yeah, tonight we're getting back to your honor. Shay did a great job pivoting last week. We previewed the East Division. We talked about that thoroughly. It was great. But we're back to episode 3 and 4 of Your Honor tonight. Before we get into the recap of it, Shay, what were your thoughts on the two episodes as a whole?
Yeah, like I think we talked about it before this. They're both building episodes. Even the greatest shows in
Mhm.
television, they don't hit every episode. The Sopranos doesn't hit every episode. Breaking Bad didn't hit every episode. So this is no different. These are just kind of building blocks on what's to come. I'd say the end of episode 4 leaves a lot of great question marks on what's going to happen. It's very intriguing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a lot of episodes, and these episodes just make you hate Adam. Anyone
Yeah.
out there who's not frustrated with this kid by now is got some patience. I will say that.
Yeah, I totally agree. The kid's scot free. He's gonna get away with murder. And he doesn't want to for some reason. And maybe we're, as people, we're misjudging ourselves because we're not the ones guilty of it. But
Mhm.
he he's doing a lot of weird shit, and
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, he's a hard character to root for because he's just
That's the only thing I can give him, Juggy, is that guilty conscience as much maybe it's just eating him alive, and he feels like he just needs to, act out or do something and slip up and get caught because, he feels like he should. But it's very compelling to watch him and the judge
mhm.
battle about this because the judge is doing everything humanly possible to keep this under wrap, and Adam just seems to, mess it up every time.
No,
Try to.
exactly. So at the end of episode 2, we saw that Kofi Jones was arrested and he actually pleaded guilty to the murder of Rocco Baxter. Episode 3 starts kind of a montage of Kofi. He's in jail with his cellmate. They're kind of going through the motions. At the same time, the judge is drinking at a bar by himself. So we're kind of wondering what he's doing. Then Adam is taking pictures of his wounds. He's also printing them, like he's creating these pictures so that they're you can grab them with your hand, taking pictures of the crime scene. And while he's at the crime scene, we see the black Suburban that was chasing him and then turned around. It drove by, which was really an interesting scene to start the episode.
Yeah, I 100% agree. First, I'm thinking, someone's going to get out of the Suburban and absolutely either tear or shred or maybe even hurt Adam. But like you said, it just kind of zooms right by him, and it leaves a lot of questions. Like this Suburban, they know whoever's in this vehicle knows that Adam actually did this and that Kofi Jones took the fall for him. So it kind of leaves, a lot of mystery on who's in this vehicle and why haven't they said anything yet. So I think that's going to come out probably later in the episodes. It doesn't come out in these two, as far as I know, unless you saw something different.
Yeah, my kind of thoughts were they know who it is, and the Black Suburban's obviously tied to the cartel, the Desire Gang. Sorry, and I'm thinking, well, the judge knows his buddy Charlie, who's an African American who's tied to this gang,
Mhm.
and they're probably just going to let it slide and just, let Adam roam scot-free because they know who the culprit was, but they're not going to harm him because he's, one of them, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And as for the judge in the bar, that was a pretty crazy scene, and it only gave me more respect for this character Bryan Cranston plays in the judge because of what he does in there, and the story he tells.
Yeah, he's sitting there drinking. He kind of, it looks like he's kind of down in the dumps, and we don't really know what's happening with him. But he starts to talk to this other random guy in the bar, and they're going on about life basically, and he creates an alias, and he calls himself Dylan Thomas, and he basically snookers the guy in the bar who happened to be the gas station attendant of the station that Adam went to on the day of Rocco Baxter's murder, so that he can go and delete the video evidence of him being there because he knew there was a car behind him. He wanted to get that information and also eliminate the footage so that if Adam was ever caught in this, he would be, there would be no evidence to go against him. But for me, it showed the judge very clever, but also he's willing to break the law at any point to protect his son.
Yeah. And don't you find that this is such a risky move? Like if he were to get caught, or this gas station attendant would be, to bring this back and link it on him. I mean, he's ruined, right? So to me, it seems like such a huge risk for such a small detail in, this whole crime that Adam committed. But do you think it was necessary?
I don't necessarily think so, because nobody to this point has said that Adam. I guess he did tell Detective Costello. I don't know if he told her he got gas or not. Well, because she doesn't know that he was driving that day. That was still up in the air. But yeah, it was probably just him overthinking it. But Adam being such a loose cannon, and with the two not talking, maybe he felt like he needed to do it because who knows what Adam's going to be doing next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyways, and like you said though, the story that he makes up is, very very much like a Walter White, persona, where he's just going off. Maybe obviously he would have had this, just up and ready when he started talking to this man at the bar, and oh, like I think my wife's cheating on me. I think that she was in this vehicle. Do you think I could see just to see who it was?
She's sleeping with a younger man. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and he just does such a great job. It's so believable. And this guy is, just I guess just not what's the word I'm looking for? Not guilty, but very just naive.
He's very naive, and he's uneducated.
Yeah, highly, yes.
So yeah, he buys it hook, line, and sinker. He gives him access to the video footage. He deletes it, and the judge basically walks away scot-free. I mean, to this point, nothing happens with that. But I think for this scene, I don't think it'll come back to haunt him. I think the writers just wanted to show us what the judge will do and what he's capable of, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
In these type of situations.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So Adam again. I'll come back to Adam in this episode. He's taking the pictures of his wounds, and we're all like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's doing that, and then he leaves the crime scene and he starts walking to the prison. And he's with his camera outside the prison, and he starts taking pictures of the prison. And you can't do that. I didn't know that, but I looked it up after the fact. You cannot go and just take pictures of a prison without permission. I think you can for cases and stuff. They'll give you permission just for shots, like action shots, but it's not good to take pictures of a prison. I guess you can get into trouble for that. So, so he's taking photos of the prison. He created copies of the photo evidence, and it's just Adam again showing us this this side of him where he's kind of this loser, but he's fighting, I think, in his brain what the right thing to do here is.
Yeah, and I mean these things are just the downfall of his demise, I think, because it just seems like he's working so hard on getting himself caught. Like I don't know, like I feel for him in a sense that, to be able to get that off your chest would be everything. But at the same time, like you just see how hard, the father's working to cover this up. I really don't think he understands the severity of what would happen if he was to confess, because, going to jail, whatnot, whatever, and clearing Kofi's name, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
he would get him and his father killed 1000% by the Baxter Mafia.
Oh, 100%. And his father, I think it would be pretty easy to prove that he knew about it, and he would go to jail as an accessory to murder. So
Yeah.
it's not just about him at this point, and it's obviously his father's legacy and so many other things. But at the same time, the judge has this friend named Lee who we sort of met in episode 2, but she wasn't really introduced to us yet. But the judge, he wants her to defend Kofi. And again, this is the judge doing bad things and then trying to cover it up. And I think, his mindset here of, well, I'm going to get my friend to defend this kid who I know is guilty, but I'm still a good person. But, Kofi's already pled guilty. He's not willing to change his stance because the gang is going to protect his family.
Mm-hmm.
He's facing 5 to 30 years in prison for
Yeah.
this crime he had nothing to do with.
Yeah. No, it's insanity. And, he asked, it's worth noting that he asked Lee Delamere to defend Kofi after he knew that Kofi already pled guilty. So it really is this is his way of showing his guilty conscience, in the sense that, maybe there's some way you get him off on a stipulation or something. And we really see the great, like how great of a lawyer Lee is throughout these next 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Especially where I think she's starting her investigation, and she brings up police brutality, which gets brought up a couple times during the episode. And basically she thinks that this is her angle of getting Kofi off, because there's something, she met Kofi, told him pro bono, he was obviously, what lawyer does pro bono, like blah, blah, blah. He's very skeptical about the whole situation himself. But then, she sees that his eyes, there's something wrong with his eyes. And she knows the very methods the police use to, get confessions out of their.
Yeah, exactly. She knew by looking, and she had heard rumors that of carbon monoxide poisoning as a way to interrogate and coerce people into accepting pleas or accepting to do different things that they knew weren't right, but they did anyway. And she flat out called out the cop to his face about it, and you could tell he was taken aback.
Yeah, because I think he was probably the head of, I don't know if he was the chief or what position he held in the police department, but she this is her angle of trying to get Kofi off, is, I'll bring this to light if you don't do something about it.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's happening. At the same time, we learn that the Baxter family, they have a lot of different things going on. Obviously, Jimmy is the head of one of the biggest drug cartels. We haven't seen him kill anyone yet, but I have a feeling he's killed a few people in his day, just with his temper and his temperament.
Yeah.
But we learn that his son, an older brother of Rocco, Carlo, is actually in prison for killing a member of the Zaire gang. And it's basically stated that they think he's a racist, that he kills black people just purely on hate alone. And Gina Baxter's mother wants him out of prison for the day so that he can go to his brother Rocco's burial. And this is really our first introduction to Carlo, and he's kind of a scary dude.
Yeah, he's a big lad. But yeah, it's like, I mean, so they're here, and this is just as how see how powerful, I wouldn't say would say wealthy people, but like the mafia is. They're the judge and I guess there's another judge, I should say, that's working from the same location in New Orleans that
Yeah.
our judge Michael Disiato works out of, and
So they're
she's
basically
basically
sitting on like a little bit of a parole, or
yes,
when you want to get out of prison, when you've been in there for like 25 years and you get let out, like think of Shawshank Redemption when Morgan Freeman gets out, or when
right.
they let out I forget his name. He hangs himself after, but he when they let you out after a certain period of time, that's kind of what's happening here.
Yeah, and it's brought to light that they want the lawyers of the Baxter family want Carlo to get out and be there, like you said, for his brother's wake. And behind the scenes, you can see that I don't know if he's a priest or I don't know what kind of position he held, but Gina Baxter, basically bribing this man to let
Yeah.
Carlo out for the day to go to the wake and or sorry, the funeral of his brother. But she says it's for the chapel, but we, as a viewer, we all know that that's straight cash to his pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just shows that the strength they held and what kind of power they hold over the justice system.
No, exactly. So she hands him a bag of cash, and of course, he gets let out. And before we go to that, because that's a really interesting scene, um, Adam, again, he is dating his teacher, Miss Lattimore, but he, the this is the judge goes to a parent-teacher conference with her, and I found this a really interesting scene because it was so awkward, but I thought the acting was very good. He kind of asks her some questions about Adam if he's acting weird, and then he asks her, "Well, does he have a girlfriend?" And she's so clearly uncomfortable with the conversation, and she's like, that's not really on me to say." And and she's so taken aback, and he's just kind of like, "Okay, well, like, I don't really talk to my son, so I don't know." And I
Yeah.
found it funny.
No, it was, and I forgot about that. It's been a while since I watched episode 3, so I forgot all about that scene. But yeah, it holds a lot of weight in the sense that here the two people probably uh, Adam's closest to, his father, and obviously his girlfriend, makeshift teacher,
Yeah.
and they have no idea about the relationship, or he has no idea about the relationship with each other and how much they mean to Adam.
Yeah. No, exactly. So they leave, and they're both kind of just like not wanting to say much to each other, and they're weird with each other.
Yeah,
But I just thought I'd bring that because that's a funny scene. But
it is.
um, and this one we get to really the back end of the episode, and I found the last 20 minutes really compelling.
Mhm.
We go to Rocco's burial. Obviously, the big family's there. And we see these prison trucks roll up with Carlo. And normally he's standing a ways away because he's not allowed to be within close to the people just for prison rules. But it was interesting to see Namisha because the prison guards change as soon as he gets there. And I was kind of like, well, why the hell did that happen? And then they wouldn't let them hug, but then they did after a while. Jimmy basically came up and said, "You guys have mothers. Would you not let your mother hug your son?"
Mhm.
And while they pull this card of kind of poor me, Gina grabs Carlo and starts whispering in his ear. We don't know what, but she
Yeah.
clearly whispers instructions on something to do once he gets back to prison.
Yes. Yeah, the first thing I thought of, I don't know about you, is I thought of Breakout. I thought of the movie Man on an Edge or something like that. Anyways, it's a pretty it's a great breakout scene of someone fakes their death, and then
Mm,
they use that as a way of breaking out while they're out of prison, obviously.
right.
And that's the first thing I thought of. Did that ever cross your mind, or were you kind of
I thought the only thing I thought was he won't be leaving here because he has to go back and do that job for his maybe. Like I was thinking,
okay?
okay, he's his mother's whispering something to him. She could just say it out loud, if these cops were dirty. But
Mhm.
clearly she didn't want her husband to hear it. And I think that was clear too, because I don't think he really knew at the time what she was saying. I think he probably
No.
just thought she was saying like, I love you. And, I've, stay safe or, whatever you say to your son in prison, but it wasn't, it wasn't anything like that.
Exactly. And keep in mind, Carlo, he doesn't really have, like we said before, he doesn't really have a whole lot of time left in jail.
Seven
I think
days. Yeah.
it's a matter of days until he's like free. He's a free man. They wouldn't let him out early, obviously, to be here, but um, through persuasiveness through the family, obviously he was still able to go.
Yeah.
What got me is when they were switching guards, Juggy. I thought that's when they would have, something was going to happen, like the guard,
Jailbreak or
the new,
something. Yeah.
the new guards coming in would have been dirty, and they would have, maybe snuck him off or put him in a different bus.
Right.
But anyways,
Well, because that
go ahead.
sort of did happen because he switched prisons.
Yeah.
He somehow through the bribing and everything, he gets redirected to Kofi's prison, oddly enough. And Kofi learns of this while he's in jail because he hears that somebody else is coming, and so does the judge. He tries to get Kofi into protective custody because he knows, because this is tied in. They have the burial. Adam tells the judge, they're burying Rocco tomorrow. Like, don't you care or something like that? And he basically says, no, I don't. He tells Adam to shut the fuck up and just live.
Yeah.
But the judge went for his run, which he does every morning. But he was there. He was hiding behind a tombstone, and he found out that they were planning this coup, and he starts bolting it back to his office so he can alert the cops to get Kofi away from Gen Pop because he knows what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's so funny that he tells Adam, shut it, like you got to put this behind you. But meanwhile, he's there watching the burial because I don't, at first I wasn't thinking it was for intel or for any, specific purpose. But obviously, being there, he learned about this switch up and that he's going to a different prison. And the warden at the jail that Kofi's at, this is a guy you really, really learn to hate. So
Yeah.
he says, first of all, he says that he's going to put him in protective custody. First of all, on top of that, the judge calls him. He's sitting there watching football. Like, buddy, do your job. You get a prisoner run.
Yeah.
Anyways, and he just completely ignores the fact that Michael Disiato, the honorable judge, just gave him key information about one of his inmates being in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just one ear out the other.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything about it. And what first happens is these guards come and get Kofi and they bring him to the infirmary. And if you've watched any prison movie, you do not want to go to the infirmary ever. I don't care if you're hurt. What you don't want to do is go to the infirmary when you're not sick, because that's when you die normally.
Yeah.
You get shanked or shivved or something. So he's there. He goes in the room. Nobody's there. Everybody's clearing out. All the black guards are leaving, which is like really like telling. It's like, uh-oh. And we see these three white prisoners come around the corner, and Kofi's freaking out. Like he's trying to yell for help. And at the last second before they can start, I think, kill him, maybe beat the hell out of him because they know Carlo's coming. A black guard comes in and saves Kofi's skin because he was in a tough spot with three big white dudes ready to get him.
Yeah, and the key part of that is he's looking up at the camera that's looking in the infirmary, and the red light just turns off. So it's like, okay,
he knows
someone's coming to get this kid.
Yeah, and just for reference, Kofi might be 150 pounds soaking wet. Like he's a thin guy. Like it wouldn't have even been a fight. Like between, obviously it's 3-on-1, but even if it was a regular sized dude, I think Kofi doesn't stand much of a chance in a brawl. I mean, he's 17. He's a little kid. I mean, so he escapes this. So we think all is good. We see Carlo enter the prison. And he walks by. He doesn't see Kofi right away. He doesn't look at him. He's kind of upstairs. They're downstairs, and he's talking to his cellmates and other friends that he has in there. But this was really the interesting one for me. Should end the episode. End of episode. He goes to Carlo's cell late at
Yeah,
night. He walks up and he says, "I'm Kofi Jones." And
yeah.
it didn't look like he had to go. I think he had a choice in a sense. And I wanted to ask you because that was my question at the top of my notes. Why did he go?
Well, after doing some reading and doing the readings I did about this episode, because I had to do a little recap for myself, it
Mhm.
seems like he kind of knew that
He was going to get it.
it was going to happen eventually. And I feel that, and from what I read, he was going to confess to Carlo about what really happened and how he never, he never drove the car the day that it happened. He
Right.
was told by this person to do it, and I think he was going to come clean. That's what I read. But from what I think he was just going to meet his maker, and I think that he knew it was a matter of time before something happened to him. And
Right.
I mean, that stress alone can do wonders on somebody. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine sitting there every day, every hour, every minute of the day thinking, I'm going to get it eventually?
Yeah. No, I kind
So,
of, yeah.
what
Yeah.
did you think?
Yeah. As I thought about it, I thought something similar. I was like, okay, he can't get all the protection. There's
Hmm.
more the white elites here are going to be able, his prison cellies are only going to be able to help him so much.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think he knew if he died, that would end the case because he's dead. That's the only
Yeah.
person that can say he didn't do it, right? So he dies with that lie,
Hmm.
and it it would help his family in the long run
Yeah.
because the
Oh, save,
Desire Gang,
save. Yeah.
the Desire Gang, he didn't rat, he didn't do anything wrong. He went to jail for them, and then they can protect his family for the rest of time, really.
Yeah. Exactly. I
But
think it's all. I think it's also worth noting in this episode as well. This is the episode where Adam visits Frank at her home.
Franny,
Franny, yeah, sorry, not Frank. Franny at her home, and you know, they like kind of just confesses to what he did,
yeah,
which I think is worth noting in the sense that now more than two people know this real secret besides him and Charlie and his dad, I guess. But
yeah.
that's it. Those are the only people that know, and now you're adding someone else who kind of becomes, I don't think that Franny's not to be trusted, but it obviously just there's one more mouth that you got to make sure it doesn't say anything.
I mean, my first thought was, okay, she's a teacher sleeping with a student.
Yeah,
She's gonna get trouble there.
yeah,
If
fair
she
enough.
says, okay, you're gonna go to jail for statutory rape, whether it was consensual or not, I mean, that it doesn't matter at that point. Um, well, she says, well, actually, I have some information on that could help you with the case. Maybe I get a lesser sentence. Who knows?
Hmm.
Who knows
I never thought of it like that.
what this woman's all about?
Yeah,
She says
well,
she
you do
loves
it.
Adam, but I don't buy it.
Yeah, you do what you have to do, save your skin at the end of the day. And I mean, yeah, I mean, this is just another case of Adam's guilt just eating him alive and having to tell someone other than his father who already knows, like,
Right.
on what some guidance at least on what to do and how to cope with this.
And he doesn't. I don't think he trusts his father completely. They haven't really. I think it's going to come up why they don't have a great relationship, but he he doesn't he doesn't tell his father about his feelings, things like that, which is natural. I mean,
Hmm.
as two men, I think we can both say that if we were going to get emotional with stuff, our father would be our first pick.
Hmm.
But with his mother being gone, I think he needed a womanly figure, and he obviously his teacher was there
That's fair.
for him
Yeah,
emotionally,
yeah,
second
that's 100%
too.
valid.
So that was a good end to the episode, and we find out the start of the fourth episode that Carlo Baxter killed Kofi Jones. We see him. The episode starts him getting put on a stretcher. They put him in the hearse and they're bringing him down to look at him. But this was to me, this was Gina Baxter ordering a hit and Carlo falling through on it. And we mentioned he had 7 days left on his sentence. And of course, early on in the episode, his father visits him in the prison and is irate. He can't believe that he did it. He said, "You got 6 days left and you're going to do this? Like, you were home free. Like, you're coming home." And now they don't know who did it, just to be clear to everybody. They're not saying that he did it, but it's this weird thing again where you have politics and you have money, because they go and the medical examiner looks at him and he says he died from blunt force trauma to the head with objects or fists, what have you.
Yeah.
And this rogue cop who did not take the judge's call, he was watching college football, he's still against them, and he goes, "Well, are you sure it was blunt force trauma to the head? Like, I think it might have just been a fall." And
Yeah.
he goes, "I'm pretty sure it's a fall, right?" And the doc didn't want to, but he wrote in his chart that it wasn't blunt force trauma, which sort of cleared Carlo of the crime.
Yeah, exactly. And just going back on what you said, visiting that the fact that Jimmy Baxter had no idea. This is just the lack of communication between the family, because I mean, obviously it's like you said, he was irate. He's like, what the hell, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think during that scene, I think this warden or this police officer, like you said, comes in, and I think that's when they kind of cleared up, like, oh, like I think Carlos should just be on his way to the prison, and we'll take care of this, kind of like, we'll shove it under. But yeah, it's like it's what he says to this guy working down in the morgue. He's like, he says there are no homicides in my jail. He wants a spotless record, essentially, and
Right.
he doesn't want this touching him, knowing probably that the Baxter family's involved, and it's probably better to just leave it off the books. That way, everyone's safe in his eyes, but not Kofi Jones.
Right. So yeah, that basically ended the drama for Carlo. He's going to get away with this crime. It looks that way anyway. And Jimmy Baxter, we learn, has a lot of contacts. He's got a lot of people inside the police. But I don't know if he knows this yet, but so do the Desire Cartel. And they have a lot of white cops on their side too, which is an interesting little pivot for me, because you wouldn't suspect that. But with Charlie, obviously the judge's friend, running for DA, he has a lot of power, and the white cops, they're listening to him a lot before Jimmy in certain situations.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So yeah, that's kind of a power struggle early on. And then there was a scene. This is really a powerful scene where Lee calls the judge and she asks him if he would come with her to Kofi's mother's home, just with the remainder of his belongings. And it's sad because they live in this really rundown house. She has a bunch of kids. You can tell that if she wasn't, she's a drug addict, like, soon. Like, they don't have a lot of money, and she just breaks down. And it was a really kind of a powerful cry, because she's just like, she was okay. And then her son that we saw before, that the judge talked to in the stand, he comes in and she says, "Kofi's dead." Like, she said it really bluntly, not really how a mother really would, I don't think, would tell you. She was just like, "Kofi dead." And
yeah,
it was powerful. She broke down, and you could just tell the judge, he was sitting there and he was so uncomfortable being there, because he knew
he was. Yeah, the best way to put it is he was getting smaller and smaller every minute that he was in that room. And you can just imagine, I mean, your blood is technically on this man's hands. You were the one who made the call to Charlie. Charlie made the call, but you made that initial call and got this, this kid, 17-year-old boy, locked up in prison, and then basically hammered the last nail into his coffin by, leaving him there and not doing more for him. But yeah, no, like, just to be in that room was awful. It is a very, very powerful scene, like you said, like, just having to break that news to any mother, let alone a mother who, doesn't seem very well in the first place, like you said.
Yeah, and it was also in this scene where she talked about cops killing black people, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, bringing it back to George Floyd and kind of 2020's biggest story with the Black Lives Matter movement, where she talked about,
second biggest story maybe.
yeah,
I just meant like COVID and then
COVID,
that, but
yeah.
that they obviously just as important.
Yeah, so I found that interesting. And later we see this Kofi's brother. He's clearly younger. I think he might be 12, 13, but I'm guessing. They don't really mention it on the show. But he's kind of like, he looks like a future lineman. Like he's a big kid. And
Yeah,
he's sitting
he's
there,
good.
and this guy pulls up in a car and he starts talking to him. And he's asking about Kofi, and this kid doesn't say much. He just kind of gives one word answers, and this sketchy dude gives the kid a stack of cash, and he says, make sure you get groceries, you get this, and
Take care
this.
of your family. Yeah.
And to me, it was this guy getting this younger kid to buy into the Desire Gang. Kofi's
Yeah.
dead, and they needed his replacement. And I think this kid, they're grooming him to be the predecessor.
Oh yeah, 100%. This is just initiation for this kid. Like, start taking cash, and the next thing you know, you're in debt with the Desire Gang, and you have to repay that debt somehow, right?
Yeah. And
What's crazy about that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say what's crazy about that. They're tossing around this baseball that was in Kofi's belongings when Lee and the judge bring it back, and they're talking. I think someone even asked him like, "Who's Mariano Rivera?"
Mm-hmm.
And this baseball I think was in the car, right, with
Yeah, it was in
Adam
the
when he got in the
car.
crash.
Yeah.
So technically, it's a piece of evidence that can be traced right back to the accident, which I don't know if it'll come into play later, because right now it's in the possession of Kofi's family. But I just thought it was kind of interesting how it's still around and kind of a theme throughout these first 3 episodes,
No,
maybe 4 episodes, I guess.
that's right. Yeah, you're totally right there, because the little kid has it now, and he's kind of playing with it, and Kofi had it, and Adam had it in the car. Like um, Kofi tried to bribe the cop with it. It's been a staple in the show so far, but I kind of like it. I mean, Mariano Rivera signed baseball. Imagine how much you can get for that if you're in New York.
Well, that's another thing too. They're walking around with this thing, probably not realizing it's probably worth thousands of dollars. Like, but they're just willy nilly like throwing it around, not storing it anywhere. It's just kind of
Especially this poor family. You get hit at a thrift shop, you can make some money off that ball.
yeah, straight cash.
So they kind of buy him into the gang. So that's happening. Lee and Judge go. So Jimmy and Gina Baxter. So Jimmy went and saw Carlo. He didn't explicitly say that his mother told him to do it, but I don't think he really had to. I think the father kind of figured it out. And they're having issues. He's trying to kind of be mean to his employees. She's not having it. She'll kick them out. She's getting mad with her daughter because they're staunch Catholics, and she's Muslim.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm never gonna read the Bible. It's just full of crap. I read the Quran. This is what it tells you to do when people die, and you see the tension start to brew there. And we talk about how it doesn't really have a big impact yet, but the daughter is a free thinker, and clearly Carlo isn't. So I think that could be an interesting if the daughter goes one way or the other, because she's not just going to do what her parents say. That's clearly pointed out by the writers, I think, so far.
Yeah, definitely in this episode for sure. And it's like, yeah, with the religions thing. And, I think she even says like, how do I, if God was real, like, why did he take Rocco away from us? You know what I mean? So she's definitely battling probably some inner demons as well. Her character is not, I would say, as significant yet, but could be maybe later on in the show. But yeah, like, this is like you start to see the tensions brew between Jimmy and Gina Baxter. It starts at the episode they're probably as far away as possible, and by the end of the episode they're holding hands, lovey-dovey. But
Right.
I think it really shows the mastermind and the devil behind Gina Baxter's character, and how she's able to manipulate others into getting what she wants, and kind of pulling off these hits that you would think Jimmy is part of. I think the best way to describe it to anyone who watches The Sopranos is she's the opposite of Carmelo Soprano, in the sense that she is probably full involvement in everything going on with the cartel, and where Carmela really just kind of was on the outside looking in, she might actually have these strings to pull clearly by getting Kofi killed. And, it kind of makes me think that maybe Jimmy's just kind of the hothead and maybe,
She's
does
the
stuff
brains.
brashly, but she's the brains to the operation. So we'll see. Let's see as the show progresses, but it's super interesting.
Yeah, no, great points. So while this is happening, Adam's at school. He's walking down the hallway with his friend, and his friend's kind of talking about Franny, and he says something in the lines of, "Well, she's gonna give me a blowjob. Like, I can go be nice to her. She'll give me a blowjob." And he freaks out. Like, he shoves the kid into the locker. He tries to fight him, and he goes to this Catholic school, so violence is just so frowned upon, and he gets a three-day suspension only because his grandmother shows up, and basically she's a lawyer,
She's a senator.
yeah, senator,
Yeah.
and she basically says, like, no, it's not happening. Like, he's not getting expelled here.
Yeah.
Give him 3
And her
days.
and
Cool
her
down.
exact in her exact quotes, she goes, "Rules are like donuts; they have holes in them," which I thought was a great line. And her introduction as a character, you're like, who is this woman that
Yeah.
Adam called to come save her? Because as far as we know, the only family he has is his father. But you get introduced to this woman who, as we find out throughout the episode, he's very, very close with. Maybe not as of late, but throughout his lifetime.
So yeah, this is his grandmother, and it's his late mother's mother. So
Yeah.
she's the judge's mother-in-law, and it's been a year since her daughter died, and you can tell she's had little contact with both Adam and the judge. She was upset that the judge didn't invite her over on the anniversary of the death, that they didn't do anything for her. And she starts basically asking Adam questions about what they did on the anniversary of her death. And they said they brought a pitcher, and they brought flowers, and they talked to the Vietnam War vet who was there. And he basically just runs over his alibi for that day where he killed Rocco. But they went the next day and did all this stuff. Said they got coffee at the diner. So at first I'm like, okay, well, how would she know any different? He's telling a story. But they go home. She starts cooking a dinner. They invite over Detective Nancy Costello, just because she wants to learn more about the car and who did it and all this stuff. And she's a bull in a china shop, like you said before the podcast. She's pull no punches. She'll talk about anything, and she's not afraid to give her opinion on anything.
Yeah, and she's the one character, as close as she seems with the Disiatos, I think she'd be the very first person to put them under as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get those vibes, but that's, every time I, hear her talk on the show, that's the first thing I think of. Like, damn, like this is a cold stone bitch. So, it's funny. Something else I read. It seems like the more people that Michael gets to try and help him, just seem to dig deeper into what he initially wanted. Same with Lee Delaware, digging into Kofi's case. Now she's, trying to find out, what the real reason why Kofi died, and and same with Nancy, trying to find out what's going on with this car and how this relates to the case and the hit and run.
Yeah, no, exactly. So she invites him over. The judge comes home, does not know she's there, does not know Nancy Costello's there. So he walks in kind of just to his own house. He invited Charlie over for dinner.
Yeah.
And his mother-in-law's there. And so they talk. Charlie and Costello and Adam go outside to kind of just hang out, grab a drink. And she basically says to the judge, what did you do on the day, on the anniversary? Because Adam told me the story, and I know it's completely bullshit because I was there that day and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And the judge is so taken aback. Like, he's like, well, he didn't really know how to react. And he kind of went through it. He kind of said we went later in the day or something like that. But you can tell he doesn't have great feelings for his mother-in-law, and she has the same reservations about him.
Yeah.
And we don't exactly know 100% why yet, but the judge the judge is a liar. So I think she knows that, and
Yeah.
she's not willing to give him like a second
Well,
chance.
what I think happens is I think he says that, Adam lied out of good faith for you, not
Right.
to hurt your feelings. So he's like, yeah, like, we did go the next day, but, Adam is just lying just to basically, not make you feel bad. And, and she says, well, you're proud of that. Like, you're proud your son's lying.
Right.
And he's like, well, like, if it means like not trying to get anybody's butt hurt, like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No. No. Exactly. So he and so they go through that. She's angry at the judge, and a question I had is, the judge rarely talks about his wife. She's kind of been a central point. We don't really know much about her. She was a photographer. We learned that in this episode. That's why Adam is doing photography.
Yeah.
Do you think do you think he loved his wife?
That's that's a tough question, but um I don't know. That's very fair. Like, you're right in the sense that he doesn't really speak about her very often throughout the show, at least not yet.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, like, he visited the grave that day because we saw him on his
Yeah.
run and he went there. He didn't leave any flowers or anything. So, maybe that's a sign that maybe she didn't mean all that much to him. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, I'm just gonna say I'm not sure, because honestly, he might not. And that's the first time I ever thought about it.
Yeah, like he just the way he talked about her and just the nonchalance he kind of, I mean, 1 year anniversary of your late wife's death. I mean, that's going to be painful,
Yeah.
even for the, least emotional person ever, for, my fellow cyborgs. I mean, it's got to touch us somewhere, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the mother-in-law, his mother-in-law is just grilling him at the same time, because, like, where the hell were you? No call, no message. Like,
Yeah, you
what's
have
wrong
no
with you?
dinners, like you don't even reach out to
And,
me.
and they're all sitting around having, I don't know if it's crawfish or shrimp or
Yeah,
whatnot,
a shrimp.
but
Yeah,
and who shows up at the door but Lee Delaware? And
yeah,
to reiterate, we never really brought it up on this podcast. I think we might have mentioned the last time. There's, Charlie's trying to get this emotional connection between the judge and Lee Delaware,
yeah.
so that she's closer, she's less likely to rat on them if she ever found anything out.
Right.
And we see them this episode go for their glass of wine, like they said they were going to in the second episode of the series. So they do that. I think they might have had a smooch. I'm not 100% sure. I kind of forget.
Yeah, they did, and I think they might have had sex in this episode.
Okay, yeah,
Remember they're on the deck and she says, "Follow me inside" or whatever, and it kind of cuts right away.
okay. I forgot all about that. So yeah, so there's obviously some deeper relations there, mind
Yeah,
you. I think she worked under him
yeah, she did.
when she was doing her practices, like her first law, like defending practices.
Yeah.
So anyways, she shows up to the door, and I think her and the judge are talking about something outside, and Charlie invites her in.
Mhm.
I'll let you go from there.
Yeah, so Charlie invites her in. They're all around the table. She sits down. It's very awkward because
Right away.
the
Yeah.
mother-in-law hates her. Doesn't even know her, but hates her. She just starts, "Well, you weren't invited. It's a family dinner." Like, just such an awkward position for her. She's trying to be nice.
I think she's trying to dig into what she is, right? Because, like,
Yeah,
I think she
she
kind of
doesn't
has a
want.
hint that
It's like being a lawyer is not, it's almost, she's a liar from the start because she's a lawyer. And
yeah.
I think she clearly has a low opinion for the judge for being a judge. So I think they tie together. So she's not happy about that. And while all this is happening, they have this dog named Django. And while Adam was cleaning up all his blood the day of the murder, he forgot one thing under this armoire.
Yeah.
And the dog's freaking out, digging at it. And Judge goes over and he finds his blood-soaked rag, pulls it out. Everybody's like, "What the hell is that?" Like, and he goes, "This was good on his part." He says, "I have a confession to make. I haven't been really the same lately. You're right." He says to his mother, "You're right. I wasn't there for you. I should have been. And losing my wife's been really hard on me, and I should have included you more in the family. And he does this sob story, and everybody forgets that he's got this bloody rag. Like even the detectives kind of like, is that blood on that rag? And then it's just kind of pushed under the table after that.
Yeah, I thought he was done after this, especially when he leads off with "I have a confession to make." I
Yeah.
was like, that's it. Like this is the end of the show. Like he's going to jail. Adam's going to be dead. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he gets out, but he gets out of it, and it's this is going back to, I know we reference it 10 times already, probably throughout these just 2 episodes that we've made, but how much does he remind you of Walter White?
It's crazy.
Like,
Walter, how many times he would go and lie to Skylar, just right to her
yeah,
face. And she knew he was lying. This time, early on in the series, she didn't know. Like when he had cancer and he'd go cook with Jesse for a weekend saying he was going to visit his mother.
yeah,
This is basically that one of those lies where he's just like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And you're right. And they buy it hook, line, and sinker. But he's such a calculated liar.
yeah, exactly. I think it's also worth noting, like, I think Lee, when she comes to the table, they start bringing up the case,
Yeah.
and I think they find, like, I think some stuff gets out about the torture and stuff, and Adam's sitting there like,
Yeah.
and he's looking at his father, and I think at one point he looks at his father and says, "Oh yeah, what's his name?" Trying to get him to say, I think as a guilt trip, to
Yeah.
maybe towards his
He
father, and
wanted him to feel it, yeah, because
and it's
they go and have a heated discussion later where Judge is pissed that the grandmother's there and that Adam
yeah,
didn't tell him. Then Adam comes back at him and says, "Well, you're not telling me the truth, so screw you. Like I'm not going to tell you anything. You're not even telling me that Kofi was dead. He didn't know, so
yeah,
he was
exactly.
rattled. Like he came back at his father full force.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, this is another, for me anyways, this is another time where I'm just like, Adam is just going to ruin this for both of them, because he's trying to get his dad in trouble just as much as he's trying to get himself in trouble,
Right.
because he knows he doesn't see, I don't think he sees his dad as, his dad at these points. I think he just sees him as some kind of scheming, biatch,
Yeah.
and that's trying to cover up this murder.
No, agreed. He sees his father as the enemy when his father's doing everything he can to protect his son.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so they get through that dinner, but it was an interesting scene. I think the mother-in-law is not done with the show.
No.
I think she knows he's lying now, and I think she's not the type of person to just let that one slip by. I think she'll be back. But while they're at dinner, Jimmy Baxter was talking to a few people. His wife was telling him, was he ever going to take some action? Was he just going to basically be a ballless man? He didn't do anything when Rocco was murdered. He didn't do anything when Kofi was in prison. She's like, you got to do something for once.
Mm-hmm.
So the episode ends with the Kofi's brother, the chubby kid, and he's walking home. He's got like a slushie in his hand, and he's clearly spent a little of the money. He's got the baseball, and it's late at night. But as he's walking down the street, his house catches on fire.
I think it explodes.
Yeah, I know you're right. It does explode. I think it was more of a dynamite than a gas leak.
Because I believe he's right in front. I think he does. I think it explodes when he's right in front of the house, which is
Yeah, you're
even
right.
more.
So it explodes. It's like a dynamite explosion. The whole house just.
Yeah, and it's not a very big house to begin with, so it's not like it's not like if.
It's a trap house basically. Like it's.
So if you have a bomb, yeah, if you have a bomb right in the center, the whole thing is going to be flattened. It's not like a piece of it was going to be blown. Like
no,
it's all
one
gone.
story. It's real linear. So that's it. So he's there, and then it pans to Jimmy and Gina on their just basically on their step, and they're holding hands, and she's hugging him as they watch the smoke in the air, obviously in the lower income district, because they know
The Ninth Ward.
what has just happened. But
Yeah.
clearly Jimmy listened to his wife, like you said earlier. She guilt tripped him into doing something that probably wasn't that smart. Kofi's
No.
dead. I realize he lost his son, but that could have been it. Kofi's dead, tit for tit, as Dwight Schrute would say, and you move on. But he couldn't do it, and his wife wouldn't let him. And I think we got to see this is going to start a huge war between the Desire gang and the Baxters.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, to me, this is and this is where, if you're the Desire gang, do you do the honorable thing and retaliate? Because I mean, they didn't it doesn't seem like they were going to retaliate over Kofi's death.
No,
But the one thing that they promised Kofi was, we're going to make sure your family's okay. If you're in there and you're not saying anything, you're going to take this hit for us.
that's the thing,
So
Shay, because we don't know if his mother and she has even smaller children, if they were in there.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's very, it's very, I guess a cliffhanger in the sense that, like, are they gone? Did they pass away? Like, what's going to happen now?
I gotta think they did, because the show, it's more compelling if they did, because then you have this younger son who's by himself who can only turn to the gang. They could use him probably, like, I don't know if you remember in Breaking Bad where they had that little kid on a bike and he sold
Yeah.
drugs.
And he shot the guy,
He
shot
shot
one of the dealers.
yeah, and they could use him in a similar sense here, where he's a younger kid, he doesn't look like a threat, and he's packing heat, or whatever they need him to do. But interesting way to end the episode. Obviously 4 episodes in, it leaves us with a lot of questions, because we still have Adam, the loose cannon. Judge is starting to feel really bad about things, and who the hell knows what's going to happen between the Baxters and the Desire. So a lot of good, interesting details still to come here.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very shocking way. I just remember sitting there for a full 30 seconds after it happened and just being like, damn, like that just really did happen. And that I thought, these people are ruthless. This Baxter family, they were willing to do anything to get vengeance on what they think is right.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, they pulled all the punches. They weren't afraid to do it, and obviously, we'll wait and see what happens to Kofi's mother and his younger siblings if they were in the house. But a good 2 episodes. Next week we'll be back to talk about episodes 5 and 6. We'll see what happens with everything going on with the judge, and just a lot of moving parts here. But obviously we're back in red now, Shay. So what does that look like for the rest of your week?
Well, I had another question about before we move into any further into the show. I'd just like to say, like, do you think that the judge's relationship with Lee Delaware, do you think that's like real, or do you think he's doing it solely on the fact that he knows he's going to need her and like he might have to use her at some point?
I think it's real, but I don't know if it's like 100% genuine. But I think he does have feelings for her, because I think he has feelings for her, but I think Charlie thinks it's just 100% basically have sex with her so that she's on our side.
Yeah, right. No, I just wanted to see your thoughts, because I mean, obviously it's going to come to light these next, probably next few 3 or 4 episodes, but I just thought it was interesting.
She's sharp. She's going to figure it out, I think.
Yeah, that could be the demise of what happens, and maybe the judge has to make a choice, like keep her alive or get rid of her because she knows too much, right? So
right. Also, in this episode, I forgot to mention, they destroy the car. They take it to the junkyard, and the car is destroyed. So that's one thing to point out. A lot of evidence is gone there now too. So what it kind of points to is Adam just admitting it at some point, like, because it's going to be hard to prove otherwise that he did it.
Yeah, exactly. All the evidence, like it's slowly getting cleaned up. We saw the bloody rag underneath the thing. They'll get rid of that. They get rid of the car. Kofi's dead. Like, more and more things look right, but at the same time, things are starting to, are starting to unwind, I guess, with the mother-in-law being there and she's digging deeper into it. The Lee Delaware's looking more and more into it.
Yeah, and it could get worse, just because Desire might say, well, we did this for you. We lost Kofi. We lost his family. Maybe they'll blame the judge and Adam for these deaths.
Yeah, fair enough. And that just, all the blame goes right to the Baxter family, and just leads them right to them. So it's gonna be good. I'm anticipating some good episodes coming up with some action, and some more bodies being dropped apparently.
Yeah. So back in red, not much change for you. Just work from home and
Yeah, no, just still working from home a lot. Being able to watch hockey is, unbelievable. My Leafs are 3-1 right now, and I'm sure that's not going to remain that confident because they haven't had a 2-goal lead to end any game. So we'll see. I'm loving it though. My Browns are out, so football seems less desirable, but at the same time, there's gonna be two great matchups. This is it Saturday, Sunday, or two Sunday?
Two Sunday. Yeah.
Two Sunday. Okay, I was trying to think about that this week if there was gonna be any on Saturday or not, but no, it's looking good. I've been deep into Suns and just started watching The Wire, which has been really good. Oh, what's I gonna say? There was another recommendation. If anyone out there is looking for a horror movie, I like to throw in a horror movie once in a while. There's a great horror movie on Amazon Prime called I See You. Give that a watch. It's not. I know for you don't like any make believe ghosts or anything. It's all 100% like real, but it's very creepy. So check that out. Another bit of good news. I said I would announce it if it happened, and I passed my exam for tax.
Woo!
Yeah. Casey called me out. He said, "Well, you gotta tell it on the pod now. If it happens, you said you would. So I'm not gonna try to fool anybody. I passed with the skin of my nuts. It wasn't close, but I mean, a pass is a pass when it comes to this kind of thing. So I'm pretty happy.
No, that's good to hear.
Thank you.
That's what we do here to the point we just nail it. And it might not be great every time, but we slide right in there. That's what you got to do sometimes in life. It's not always fun. Easy.
Yeah, and I appreciate you. You moved that time around that episode. We had to go Wednesday, and you battled it out. And, mixed up the old schedule and put me in on Wednesday. So some of the thanks goes to you for sure.
I'm not saying I'm a leader, but I'm a motivator of men. I'm like Andy Reid in that sense.
Yeah, it's true that.
Except with less balls and less control and just less. Just less.
Yeah.
We're selling.
Oh, it's just a playmaker. That's what you are. What about you? We're heading back into red. You're gonna have to find some way to boogie and get your steps in. But what else are you doing?
Gonna be podcasting a lot. Got one booked with the aforementioned Casey Ward for Friday. He's gonna hop on. We're gonna talk some hockey for a while, maybe the Browns, because he's a Browns fan too. So talk about that. Adam Beer's gonna join me again for an NFL preview this weekend on Saturday, and I plan on podcasts pretty much every day this week. So I'll be lots of content coming, and be my 40th episode tomorrow. So already.
How does that feel? You got to do something special for 50, and then again for 100, like something real special.
Maybe you can do a big round table for 50.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd be good.
You, maybe Sawyer, maybe Case, just sit around, talk some hockey, talk just life. Maybe we can do a round table, 4-way Zoom or something.
Yeah, we talked about maybe doing a podcast of things we hate. I think we'll, whatever
that is an idea there. That's it's nothing
someday
more I like in life than talk about stuff I hate.
Well, we'll get there eventually. But I like that idea. Just a general life one, and what's going on, and how to survive COVID. Maybe, I don't know, because I'm still figuring it out as we speak right now.
We should do a podcast on how we can get doctors that can figure out how to distribute vaccines. That would be nice.
That'd be decent.
I'll leave that one to my mother's boy, Fauci, and he's doing great work, and he's so proud of it.
Shout out to Fauci.
But we love him down here. Not really. But good for. Thank you for everybody who did not quarantine. I really appreciate you and putting us back into red. You suck. So I think I speak on behalf of everyone when I say that you suck and get a life. So
it's just so discouraging. Like when you know that you're doing your part to stay in, but others just don't care. Like, I don't know how.
For me, I've built my whole life around not having a social life, and I've worked hard at that, and I've really mastered it. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just being really antisocial, not much of a social life.
Yeah.
And then for people to not accept that of me and to hurt me, it cuts deep, man. It cuts deep.
Yeah, it's just people just don't want you to see you to succeed, I guess, and what you love, what you love to do.
Harsh realization, it's tough. But we'll get through this. Hopefully, Red's only a couple weeks. Usually, it's these 2-week spans. I hope it's not more than that, because that's a long haul to sit through this. But fun episode tonight, man. We'll be back a week from tonight. But have a great week, and we'll talk next week.
Thank you, man. Everyone else out there, take care.
All right, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow for me and Shamus. Good night, and we'll talk soon.